Welcome to today's episode of Wild Serenity. Before we get into it, I just want to tell you about something new that I got cooked up for you, and I'm really excited about it. So for me, fashion has never just been about the clothes. I mean, I love the clothes. I love the feel of them. I love the artwork, the aesthetic to them. But for me, it's actually about expression. And so if we're talking about glow, which I've named myself a glow coach, I believe that the real glow we all want to have isn't just about looking good on the outside. I had someone say to me the other day that their glowing days were over, and that broke my heart a little bit because glow is an internal energy that actually radiates when we're aligned and feeling connected to who we truly are. It's not about what you look like on the outside. It's not about how much makeup you wear or the fancy clothing or how old you are, or how young you are, or how many wrinkles you have. It's none of that. We want to match our inner and our outer vibrations with each other, and that's when we actually feel our most confident and present and when we're glowing. So here's the thing though, when those two parts, our inner and our outer, aren't in alignment, it's like a mismatch of frequencies. The glow starts to dim, so one can pull the other down. And when we find ourselves feeling either self-conscious, drained, or just off, I can help you fix that. And that's why it's actually really important to dress and take care of yourself the way that you want to feel. So you can be having a day inside where you're feeling really good, but then you put on something that doesn't match that. Maybe it's a little dowdy. Maybe it's not very high quality. Maybe it's kind of dirty and wrinkled, or, it's 3 p.m. and we haven't brushed our teeth or showered yet today because we're busy and in the muck of life. Whatever it may be, it's not really the real you. And that can bring you down. You just don't feel like yourself. And vice versa, maybe you're feeling kind of crummy inside, but then you go and you actually put on an outfit or a piece of jewelry or do something with your hair, and you shower and use beautiful lotion that smells so good, or whatever it is you do that makes you feel elevated, because it does hold a certain vibration that you desire and that you want to get to. And so you put that on, and it can help buoy you, or you could feel like an imposter in it. So either one of those two things. So it's really like a two-way double-edged thing. We need both things because we want to be comfortable and we want to radiate how we actually feel about ourselves. So people who have a glow energy, it's actually because they're expressing that they love themselves and they show up in the world fully expressed, fully authentic, and as someone who takes pride in who they are. So I created a guide. It's all about helping you reconnect to both your body and to your intuition. It's about taking what you already have, the clothes in your closet right now, and making choices based on how you want to feel that day, what you want to express, and who you really are. So inside the guide, you'll find, we'll start actually by tuning into your body, what it's telling you. Are you craving comfort and confidence, or maybe just a little playfulness? And then we'll tap into your intuition. I'll show you how to feel your way through your closet, literally, to find pieces that resonate. And then we'll explore the impact of color and texture on your mood and energy. I'll walk you through a process to choose what to wear based on the vibe you want to carry with you that day. So this is about way more than just throwing on the first thing you see, which obviously there's a time and place for that. Like when my kids are yelling and I have to run out from my bathroom and I don't want to come out with nothing on, so I pull the first thing I can think of on, right? A robe that I keep handy for that purpose. It's actually about creating an intentional practice of honoring your energy and presenting it authentically on the outside. So what lights me up about this guide is knowing that it's actually something anyone can start with, like right now. You don't need to go buy anything new. You don't need to spend hours revamping your wardrobe. All you need is to spend a few minutes tuning into you. When you show up wearing something that feels good to you, something that chosen consciously, I really do think you'll notice that your inner glow, that you're nurturing, is really reflected on the outside, and your energy will shift. You'll feel more connected, more at ease, and the people around you will notice it too. And what the coolest thing is about this is that if you can be in a vibration of full authenticity, self-love, and expression, you allow other people to be in that for themselves too, and they feel safe with you and inspired to be their best selves. So please grab this guide. It's called Instant Glow Up: How to Shop Your Own Closet Based on Intuition for an effortless, no-spend makeover. It's really the first step to feeling more like you every day without needing to go buy a whole new wardrobe and make big changes. So if you're ready to start showing up in a way that feels true, aligned, and uniquely you, please go ahead and download it. It's free. You can download it right now. I have the link in the show notes, or you can just go right to my website, marinswenson.com. I promise you it's going to be a game changer, and I would really, really love your feedback. On today's episode, we're talking all about manifesting, money, surrendering, and of course, glowing. I'm here with my cousin and friend and master manifester, Kristi Crocker. I haven't been super close to her my whole life, but just in the last few years, since I've started my podcasting journey and really put myself out there, we've become close because we've realized we're so like-minded and can connect with each other that way. So here's something that I talk about often with the beauty of being authentic and self-love is that when you put yourself out there, when you're afraid or not afraid to be seen, when you're going for it and breaking down all these fears that keep us from doing stuff, all these magical things will start to happen. And one of the biggest things I've noticed for me, as I've just really let go of old Marin and done a deep dive into new Marin, I've had to let go of some relationships or just they haven't been as close, but I found really deep, powerful new ones as if I've known these people forever. And Kristi is one of those people. We've had so many deep talks on all sorts of things, all related around the law of attraction and love and faith and surrendering. And we're like one of those people that will just Marco Polo back and forth all day, and I'll get lost in just talking to her because she's so amazing. So I wanted to bring her on today because she has such incredible insight into this world. She is deeply spiritual and also deeply practical and has really great, very real concrete examples of how these principles have been applied in her life consciously and the miracles that have come from that. Her greatest passion is probably in health coaching, and she's about to start that up. But in the meantime, welcome Kristi to my show. I'm going to record because you're starting to get into the good stuff.
Okay.
Okay. So you were saying when you first started your business, that was really hard for you because you had a lot of limiting beliefs to still work through.
Well, when we first got started, we were coming from such a place of fear and scarcity. And it had to work. You know what I mean? And so like breaking through barriers that were really holding us back, so that we could actually like thrive and just keep moving forward. Because when you're coming from a place of fear and you're coming from a place of lack, it's really hard to attract anything but more fear and more lack.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of just really breaking through with what are our limiting beliefs, what is getting in our way, why can't we just like blow the roof off of this thing, and moving forward, that way.
Specifically, you were talking about the law firm.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if you know our whole story here, but Justin was a prosecutor, and we live in Kentucky, obviously. And here they're called Commonwealth attorneys. Most other places they're district attorneys. And so he was an assistant Commonwealth attorney, and then ended up losing his job after he tried to let me back up here a little bit. So he worked for the state and as an assistant Commonwealth attorney. In 2018, his boss, it's an elected position. His is a hired position, but his boss is an elected position. And her term was ending. And so, and she was not going to run again. So he had to make the decision, is he going to run, or, what's next if he doesn't run? Because if you don't run in an elected office, the next person can come in and just can everybody in that office.
Yeah.
So he decided to run, and then in hopes of saving his job and all of his employees' jobs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever done a political campaign, but they're not cheap.
No, thank goodness I haven't, but I imagine.
We spent a year draining our bank account, charging up our credit cards, and then in the end he lost. And he lost his job, and
so devastating.
everybody in his office lost their jobs. It was a really hard time. And so we had just purchased a farm on top of that. So there was just a lot of fear in our lives, because it was like we didn't want to lose our farm that we had literally just bought. And then we didn't, know how to just we just had to like maintain and we have 3 kids and keep moving forward. And and the loss was really, really hard. It was very expensive. We drained everything that we had. But luckily in the county next to us, there was an attorney that was running, and he did win. And he told Justin if he did win, then he would bring him on as his assistant and give him his private practice.
Oh.
So there was a lot of like, just faith in hope in that. So, and I call him our angel, because he's, he did win, and he did exactly what he said he would do. He hired Justin
Aw.
on part-time, so we were able to have health benefits, because it's through the state. And
Yeah.
then he gave us computers, phones, clients, like, I mean, and kind of got us on our feet.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because I mean, we had nothing. We had nothing to like start a business with. And luckily the bank that I worked at the time, they donated us an office space so that we had a place
Oh.
to go. And and all of that came to us, I honestly believe, just like through faith and hope, and just a mindset of, this is going to work, because this has to work. We have to show our children, because that was the big thing. Somebody had told me that, one time, it was like, your kids may not remember the storms that you go through, but they will remember how you handled them.
Mm,
And so just Justin's integrity and diligency and work ethic, watching him lose so terribly, lose the election. I mean, it's a very public
yeah.
humiliation kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you put yourself out there, and then people don't choose you. And, well, and you like, I just remember our little kids at the time, and gosh, this was a while ago, so they were really little, and they were just like, but Dad, you worked so hard. How it's not fair
Oh.
that you lost, but he
Oh.
just held his head high, like in this, in private, there was tears, and there was fear, and there was
Sure.
lots of conversations of, what are we going to do now? And then, he held his head high and just kept moving forward, and showed, so the kids will never remember the destruction and the devastation, but they will remember how their dad just kept moving forward.
Hmm.
So I'm rambling, and I don't remember where I was going with all of
No,
that,
you're
but
you're not rambling. I'm curious, like, when did you like start diving into changing, like intentionally manifesting versus
yeah,
just
yeah,
unconsciously living, right?
right. So I got, through the stress of everything, I got really
Mhm.
sick. Like my kidneys started shutting down, my
Hmm.
liver, because stress will kill you. I mean, that's
Oh
the
yeah.
number one killer, is
Yep.
stress. And when I get super stressed, I have an autoimmune response to it.
Oh.
So I was having like, MS symptoms, lupus symptoms. Like, I couldn't even work. I was just so sick. And I went to all these doctors, and nobody could explain what was going on. And I went to a functional doctor, and he was like, you need to chill out. I was like, I'm sorry. What? Like, I just paid you $400 for one visit, and all you can tell me is I need to chill. And he was like, yes, you're just like, your body is not handling stress. Like, he goes, what's going on? Like, why are you so intense?
Hmm.
And I was just kind of told him what was going on. And so, and through that, I just kind of went on this journey, and I hired a health coach, and she got me hooked on meditation.
Hmm.
And she introduced me to, I don't know if you've ever read Dr. Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
I'm in the middle of it, actually. I've read
Okay.
some of his other stuff, but that one specifically I'm in the middle of.
Yeah. And
It's amazing.
it's great. And I mean, I've got like, I just would like underline, and I got really into it. It's kind of sciencey.
Yeah.
But like, just the thought of like getting out of your own way, like just getting out of your own way. So I just really started diving into that, and the power of meditation. Um, and kind of when you go down that rabbit hole, you just come across all these different people that kind of motivate you. And I came across Mel Robbins,
Mm-hmm.
who, she really hooked me into the idea of getting out of the negative thoughts.
Mm.
And I would, like, noticing what you're thinking and replacing those negative thoughts with what you're thinking with positive thoughts. finding things to be grateful for instead of thinking about what you're fearing and what you can actually, like if I feel fearful in a moment, I'll stop and be like, well, what am I grateful now for? What am I grateful for right now instead of fearful for right now? And it just kind of shifts the brain and shifts you into, you know, more of a knowing and less of a fearing kind of a thought. So I just started practicing with meditation and, just as an example, one day I wanted to make $1,500. I'm like, by the end of this week, I want us to make another $1,500. So there was one meditation that I did specifically that I needed guided. Like I'm not somebody that can just sit and let my thoughts, there's a million things happening in my brain. So I like somebody to kind of guide me through and calm me down. And so there was one guided meditation that I would listen to. And I did the meditation and I was just really focusing on like $1,500. I want us to make if we could just make $1,500 more this week. And I finished the meditation. I was at the office and I literally like an hour later, a lady came in and was like, I had kind of talked to her about doing a decorating job for her before, and she came in and she's pretty hateful, actually. She was like, I hated the ideas that you gave me earlier, but listen, I need this job done. I'm going to give you $1,500 to
Oh
come do
my
it.
gosh.
And I was like, done.
Oh,
All that.
what? Okay.
You know,
Don't you just, oh, that's like goosebumpy because I'm
yeah.
sitting here thinking, how are you going to make 15? Like, how?
How?
And
And
they all
that's the
tell you
thing.
have to stop. That's the universe's
That's
job. You
not
focus
about the
on
how. Yeah.
feeling and faith and being open to inspiration, but the how will come
It's the
elsewhere.
knowing.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
interesting.
it's just like living in the knowing. And so like over time, I've just really, because I've always, I was programmed that money has to be worked very hard for, and that it's scarce. It's money is like and only the elite get it.
Uh-huh.
Kind of a thing, but it's not true. Money is actually just energy. And when you kind of just live in that thought that, energy is just flowing, like money flows like energy. You take it in, you put it out, you take it in, you put it out. And when you kind of like shift how you look at and think about money, it flows so much easier. I mean, now I found $900 on the ground the other day. I mean,
What?
I find money like everywhere. And money used to be such a rigid thing for me because I was just told that it was programming that I had as a kid. And, Justin's programming as a kid, that money is so scarce. Like even his mom today, they live comfortably, they do fine, but she's always so afraid of spending a dollar, and it's like, I don't know. I view it completely differently now than I did before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So interesting. We've talked a little bit about our money, our experiences growing up and how
yeah.
things were, because I have never known when I was growing up, my parents were really flush. I mean, not when I was little, but I was not aware of that. Like, although we were always fine, but there was definitely an attitude of frugality, maybe because my
Hmm.
dad was so particular about how he spent his money. And now, 30, 40 years later, they are so flush and they're still, it's still such
Very
a
frugal. Yeah, your mom's
big
helps to keep
deal.
on track. She doesn't
Yes,
have
well,
to.
yeah, which is funny. Like I really had to change my whole approach to things. Like when I shop, I found that like I was so programmed that you only bought stuff that was on sale and you only bought stuff on clearance, and like it wasn't worth it because it was too overpriced, and it was never about quality or like how it made you feel or value or any of that. It was just like, what can you find for really, really cheap? And then it was like, oh, well, it's only $12. We just get it, even if you didn't love it. So I ended up with like a whole closet full of things that I didn't really like or didn't fit me perfectly or would not the right season or whatever. And then I had spent all my budget on clothes that I hated And then always wanted to keep buying more and then would overspend, like, because I wasn't buying the right stuff. Like, it's so backwards. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, when I go into a store, I'm like, the last thing I actually look at is price. I just
Yeah.
go and follow what feels good and the colors that stand out to me, the prints, and I try everything on and I make the decision based on how I feel. Then I look at price. Now, obviously, if it's like way over budget, then and I don't have the budget, I won't get it. But it doesn't
Right.
mean that I just buy the stuff I didn't like as much that is in budget. I just won't buy anything and I just wait
Yeah.
until the next time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but it's really hard to do that. It's like a conscious effort to not just buy crap.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you're like, well, I'm buying this because it's on sale, but I'm like, but would I buy it otherwise? I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't
Right?
have. And the
Probably
answer is
not.
generally no. And I end up just
Generally, no.
donating it and I'm in
Uh-huh.
the negative anyway. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting, huh? Yeah. So maybe you could help me explain to people who don't understand what the law of attraction is and like how
Yeah.
manifesting works in that, because people ask me when I'm like, I am a really big believer in the law of attraction, and they all go, what is that? And then I get like deer in the headlights, because I found that when I've tried to explain it to people, they get really confused and and misconstrue it as karma, or like they
Oh,
attach worthiness and deservedness to it. And I'm like,
yeah.
no, 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 no,
No,
no, no,
no,
no.
no,
Nothing to do with
no,
that. But I
no.
I don't know if the lost in translation is me not explaining it well, or our human tendencies to attach everything to worthiness.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I
Well,
don't
a
know.
lot
How do
of
you
people,
explain the law of attraction?
a lot of people think it's woo woo, but it's actually based off of science.
Mm-hmm.
And the law of attraction, how I explain it to people is like, when you're having like, pardon my language, for just a real shit day.
Mm-hmm.
Like you stub your toe, you hit every red light, this person driver in front of you is infuriating you. The person at the
Yeah.
bank got your deposit wrong. Like it's just like a
Splash
domino
food on
effect.
my shirt. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because you are in a low vibration. When you're
Mm-hmm.
irritated, when you're agitated, you are vibrating. We all vibrate energy. Like, when you're in a room and somebody walks into the room, you can feel their energy. It might be good energy, it might be bad
Mm-hmm.
energy, but you can feel it. It's like you can sense when somebody's in there. Or the law of attraction is the energy that we put into the universe. It's the energy that we emit. So if we are emitting, like you can tell when Pat comes home and he's pissed, right? You can feel his
Yep.
energy. You can feel it. And right, and you can tell when he comes home and he's like vibing high. He's had a good day at the
Mm-hmm.
office, like let's go out to
Yep.
dinner, like things are going well. And when you have days like that where everything is getting all the green lights, you got a great deal on a sweater you've been wanting to buy. Like when those things happen, it's because you're of the energy level that you are emitting, you're attracting. So when you're in a low energy state, you're attracting low energy experiences. When
Mm-hmm.
you're in a high energy state, you're attracting high energy experiences. And then if you tell that to somebody, I mean, most everybody can relate to when things are down, they're down, and when things are up, they're up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of how I have
It's
always
a good
like,
way to explain it.
yeah,
Yeah, like it's so much like you're intentionally, or actually not always intentionally, but we're always creating our own reality, and
yep,
whatever experience we have is just a reflection of what we feel inside ourselves. And here's where people get confused, and it's because they'll like look at innocent people who suffer tragedies and they'll be like, how are they bringing that upon themselves? They don't deserve that. And they attach it to like this punishing viewpoint. And I'm like, oh, it's not about karma. Like, it's not like you're a good person and good things happen, or you're a bad person and bad things happen. It's more like whatever energy you feel about that specific thing is somehow you're attracting it. So and like, if you look at like babies who are born with special needs, like I believe that they actually chose that, and that's what their wanted their life experience to be, and they're purposely attracting how they like sickness, disease. Like, have you read Abraham Hicks?
yes,
Okay. They always say
Yes.
that disease is just dis-ease, which means you're not feeling ease in your life and you're
Hmm.
stopping the flow. And so it's resistance. And I'm like, oh, that's such a great definition of disease. It's
Yeah.
dis-ease.
This is, well, I mean, that's true because you're living in a state of stress. And
Yeah.
so when you are in a stress state, your body is breaking down. I was just listening to something a little bit ago, and it was like, so say something makes you angry. Those 5 minutes of anger dysregulate your body for up to 6 hours. So
Oh.
just 5 minutes of being angry, like again, going to the traffic because that's what really pisses me off these days is people driving. But like, if somebody cuts me off and I get really angry, I might move on from that, but the dysregulation in my body will affect my body for up to 6 hours later. And it affects how my body is vibrating and it affects how, again, I've seen lots of things from Joe Dispenza where people that have been sick and have death, at their door, they go to some of his retreats and come back completely healed because it's all a
Mhm.
mental game.
Yeah.
Like when my dad was sick, he was willing to fight, 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 fight. And then he decided he wasn't going to fight anymore. And he
Mm.
literally died within weeks
Oh.
of that, so it's all mind over matter
Yeah.
and really kind of breaking down what your limiting beliefs are, what's holding you back from thinking I could be a millionaire. It's easy to talk about money. Or, I've got a girlfriend who's just desperate to find that relationship. She's desperate
Hmm.
for that. And letting go of the limiting beliefs that have blocked her from having that relationship. And then when she finds the joy in somebody else, just living in the ease and flow of it and not over analyzing, well, but what if he doesn't really like me? Or what if he's doing this on the side? Like just be in the flow and
Hmm.
enjoy the high vibes of it and I find that if you practice gratitude, gratitude brings happiness. Happiness brings high vibes. High vibes attracts everything you want.
Hmm.
And I think if more people would just get out of it all goes back to just those limiting beliefs and where do those come from? Why do you think what you think? And just debunking some of those thoughts,
Hmm.
um like here's an example. I used to do print and color. For Fruit of the Loom, I worked at Fruit of the Loom and we did women's panties and I picked the colors and patterns that would go on the package, like in the sets
Hmm.
that we sold. um and my boss, anytime I would put purple and yellow together, she just couldn't live with it, like hated it.
What? What?
And so it was like, what is your deal with purple and yellow? Like something is holding you back from this color combination. It is evoking some type of an emotion out of you that is because you're insane. This print is so cute. It needs these colors. Like, I don't know. That's just your hold up. You need to move past that. And she was like, well, come to think of it, purple and yellow were my college colors, and my college boyfriend cheated on me.
Oh.
So, and it was like once she realized that, then we kind of like debunked that it's really not a bad color combination. It just
Hmm.
brings her bad feelings. And so then I was able to start using purple and yellow,
Right.
together because it's like, what holds you back? Where are your beliefs coming from? Realizing that they may not even be your beliefs. You know what I
Oh,
mean? And
yeah.
that
A lot of the time they're
something
not.
they're not. It's something that you were told that you like, like I hate the color red because my mom hated the color red and but I don't really hate the color red. And it's like
Hmm.
once you start getting all of that nonsense out of the way, you just start attracting on a whole different level.
Hmm.
And it really is just science. I always go back to just telling people it's not woo woo, it's actual science.
Yeah.
And
Well, which is always funny to me because, like, having grown up in such a religious culture, and I mean, religion is so woo-woo. Like,
yeah, it is. It's kind
right?
of
Like
crazy,
if
but
you
it's
if
crazy.
you read the Bible and all the stuff that happens in there and the concept of like visions and all the miracle, like all this stuff, I'm like, that sounds woo-woo. But I
Yeah.
accepted it because that's what I was just told was true. Um, and I'm not saying I don't think it is true. I just mean like if
You
you
were told to
and
believe
then
that.
right, but then those same people who believe in all that stuff, if you try to talk to them about feelings and energy and vibrations and like explaining how the universe, like on a scientific level, how any of that's possible, it's like, nope, can't hear it. Or like talk to them
Shut
about
down.
like the possibility of aliens and they can't hear that. And I'm like, well, how is that less realistic than all this other
It's crazy.
stuff? It
It's
is funny.
crazy. But yeah, it just goes back into, old programming. I heard this example the other day. It was really interesting. It was somebody took, and I'm going to butcher this probably, but somebody took a jar with a lid and put fleas in it. Fleas like to jump.
Yeah.
So with the lid off, the fleas were obviously trying to jump out of the jar. And then they put the lid on. And so over time, the fleas, they knew that they would hit themselves if they hit
Yeah.
the lid. So over time, they started jumping not as high,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't hit the lid. And then eventually they just stopped jumping. So then once the lid came back off, they never left. They never jumped out of the
Yeah.
jar because their belief was, I can't go that high.
Yeah.
And so even though the whole situation had actually changed, and if they wanted to, they could jump right out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of that theory of like of a ceiling of you can only think one way,
Uh-huh.
but in reality, you can think whatever you want.
Isn't in addition to that, I don't know if it was fleas or flies, but in the lines of the same study, they had babies and those babies were born without the lid on and they never once tried to fly or jump.
Yeah,
Does
I'm
that
sure.
ring a bell?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because
I'm
it was
sure.
just like
Yeah,
passed on through
yeah,
them, that those beliefs.
yeah. I mean, we have like where we live on a very busy road, so we put up a gate to keep our dog. We have 5 dogs, so and to keep them off of the busy road, we put
Yeah.
out a gate. And so the gate was always shut. And then after about a year or two, we started leaving the gate open because the dogs know you don't go past this portion. You
Mm-hmm.
just go
Yeah, they
like
just learn.
that's how you. So it all goes back to programming and just how you program and how
Yeah.
you are programmed.
Yeah.
So
So I think what I like most about the law of attraction is it's like the one thing that makes me feel so powerful. It's
yes,
it's actually really scary because, and that's maybe why so many people will argue and argue and argue why it can't be true or that's not
yeah,
right. It's like, but which is funny because what they're really doing is arguing for victimhood. They're like saying, well, these circumstances are beyond my control. I can't change them. So I'm just stuck at the mercy of life. And the
yeah,
law of attraction is so opposite. It's like you're right. Like there are external factors, but you can flow through them and have them actually work for your benefit and find opportunities within them and maybe even because of them versus just being, ugh, I'm getting thrown here and there, right? So I have sometimes people will just argue and be like, well, how can you change that? And that doesn't make sense. And they like really want to stay downtrodden. Maybe because it feels easier than having to
yeah,
like take full responsibility and just go change it yourself or muddle through it, I guess. I don't know if that's part of it, but
yeah. Some people don't want
um
to actually do the work, but really, if you just kind of like sit back and think about, like I don't want to be a victim. I grew up with a mother who just lived in victimhood. And
mhm,
so that programmed me to not want to always be, I don't want to be the victim of all things. And like Justin and I in our relationship, things had come up and I felt like I was living in this like victim mentality. And I so desperately wanted to get out of it. I was aware I was doing it and
mhm.
I didn't, it was making me uncomfortable. I didn't want to be the victim anymore. I wanted to like, because how do we move forward if I'm still staying in this like circle of victimhood? And you look at people and people that they choose for mates, they constantly choose the wrong person because it's like, it's programmed in them they're comfortable in dating somebody that's going to cheat on them. They don't subconsciously or consciously get that, but
Right.
subconsciously that's what they know. So that's the pattern they're going to keep repeating because it's
Mhm.
it's just kind of it's stuck programming and just
Yeah.
kind of debunking
and
that.
yep, and mixed in with all that, probably things like men are not committed. Men, like, they probably have all these limiting belief stories about relationships and men and what was modeled for them, or things they've heard, or who's their friend's experience was, or any of that stuff plays into that all too.
Yeah.
Interesting. I always, like, when I look back at my first marriage, I'm like, I just attracted where I was at. Like,
Yep.
how I
That's
felt about
exactly right.
myself, I
Yeah.
attracted the kind of person who felt that way about himself, and that's why
Yeah.
that's why things ended the way they did. But when you started your law practice, and was it like pretty fast results?
Yeah, I mean, so like the first year, we opened his practice January 7th of 2019. And I was working full-time at the bank. He was part-time at the Commonwealth Attorney's office in the next county, and then he was at running his office the rest of the time. And so that was January. By October of 2019, I quit my job because one missed phone call at the law office was more than I made an entire month at the bank.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we kind of took that leap of faith, and which was hard because I've always made my own money. Like
Yeah.
I was 15 years old, I've always had a job. I've always had a paycheck. I've always had my own opportunities for insurance. Like I've always been a self-sufficient, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was a really hard for me to step away from that.
Yeah.
But it just seemed foolproof. And also, um, this is kind of a side note. When we were getting at the end of the campaign, it was the day of the election, or like the day everybody went out and voted. We were going to go to all of the precincts to see who, like, if we won, what precincts we won, kind of see the results. And right before we left, I remember getting on my hands and knees in my bedroom and just praying, like, dear Lord Jesus, this has to work. Please let this work. We have to win. We have to win. And I remember this feeling as if there was nobody in the room, it was just me. Like I felt this giant embrace come around me and
Mm.
hold me so tightly and whispered, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
Aw.
And I was just like, I mean, it was just this weirdly intense feeling of just knowing it was all gonna work out. So then a couple hours later, when we horribly
Yeah.
lost, I was like, what? Like,
Yeah, like, come
but
on.
I just kept remembering that moment where something wrapped itself around me and told me it was going to be okay. And to
Yeah.
share that, most people will probably think I'm Nutty McNutterson for saying something like that.
No, I that
But
resonates super well with me.
yeah, but like really just that I just kept clinging to that feeling, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Um, so when we were going through our practice and just like, I think I just kept going back to that thought that it's going to be okay. And then, practicing meditating, and I would make Justin meditate with me at night. I'm like, I don't care, just
Oh.
sleep. The subconscious programming is happening in your sleep. You just go to bed. We're going to listen to this meditation while we sleep. And he was just like, whatever, but it
That's
started
awesome.
working. It started
Mm-hmm.
like things were shifting in our direction. And, it wasn't long by I was able to leave my job because the law office was supporting us enough that I didn't have to work at the bank. And then I found us I left in August, or I'm sorry, in October. By November, I had found us a building to rent,
Mm.
and we got a sweet deal on the place. So now we had like a solid standalone location for us. And it was like things just kind of kept coming into place and more people started calling. So we're 6 years into this. You've made well over $1 million in our
It's
business.
amazing.
And, but it was based off of just really like, it's a mental game, and just, it'll come, it'll happen, it'll come. And my husband's also an incredible attorney. And I think he's not somebody like genuinely takes care of his clients. He genuinely puts good out.
Yeah.
I think good is rewarded back.
Yeah.
So, and as he saw that kind of like my woo-woo-y meditating stuff was starting to work, he was like, well, you got to the point where he's like, well, put on one of your meditation things and let's hope that I land this case tomorrow. I'm like, nope.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's where I had to stop our conversation. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Wild Serenity. I'm going to have Kristi on again where we talk about even more cool subjects. And have a great week.